Baylor women's basketball in the Sweet 16 with a win at Virginia Tech. Now headed to Portland. And what a night it was for a lot of players, including Nicki Collen and her staff and program. She joins us on 365 Sports. Can you put into words what it was like just to kind of break through? And this is what you expect. This is what you want. And you want a standard even higher than this. But what was it like to kind of get that albatross at least off your shoulders for now?
Oh, gosh. I think Chad asked me that at the press conference last night, and I was thinking to myself, like, geez, I've only been here. This is only my third season. So, it's not like we were searching for our first Sweet 16 in 10 years. But I also, certainly it's just a benchmark. It's one of those things that you aspire to as a coach at this level. Just really proud of the way that we've played down the stretch of the season. And, I think we went in confidently. And we knew, we really felt like, and I know Virginia Tech had lost Kitley and how important she is to them. But I also think that, we were good enough to beat them with her, and we wouldn't have felt any differently, had that not happened to her, which is always sad when you see one of the great players, go down. But, just excited for our program, excited for our players. We had a lot of players transfer here with the goal to be playing, this time of year and to be playing into the second weekend. So a lot of emotions. There was a little relief. I'd be lying if I said that there wasn't a little relief to reach this point because I thought we were capable and didn't want to underachieve.
Richard Carr Motors, Baylor Bear Hotline with Baylor women's basketball coach Nicki Collen. You mentioned down the stretch as far as the season. I thought last night, because there's been a couple of games that have gotten away from the team at the end of the game. I thought last night the execution and the poise, not just Jada Walker, but many others, was as good as I've seen down the stretch. Would you agree?
It was good. And I thought that, and it's not that we don't work on it throughout the season, but I think when we had the week to prepare for the Big 12 tournament, and then we had the time to prepare once the tournament ended for us, a lot of it, there were two things we focused on. One was late game execution. Every day ended with up 7, 3 minutes to go, down 4, 3 minutes to go. Those type of scenarios, as well as, got a lot of shots up and really wanted the girls to see the ball go through the basket again, because we just hadn't shot the ball well consistently in conference play. So, I thought we did a good job of executing. I thought all of our, and I felt this way all night long. I thought all of our ATO were good. I thought we got some easy buckets on baseline out of bounds. One that we just put in and shoot around yesterday. And so, I had to refresh it in the huddle, certainly, but just felt like we really executed. We got open. We listened, even down to, hey, we've got one foul to give. I thought Jada took it at the right time, other than the fact that then they didn't stop the clock and because, you go into those situations as a coach, that last time out, here's what we're running. When we make the free throws, like we've got a foul to give, they have no timeouts. Here's what we're going to do. So, I think obviously I showed a little frustration last night, but I think when you're in that situation and your opponent has no timeout, and then you have a 2-minute delay for, to figure out that it's not 0.8, it's 1.8, it's like it's giving a really good X's and O's coach 2 minutes to drop a play.
Coach, what do you learn about your team in a situation that they're on the road? They, it's even tougher. You don't have the advantage of being at home in the first round of the tournament, which, Baylor had gotten used to for a while. When you have those moments where, all right, I haven't seen them in this particularly yet, but now they've been dealt a hand and they've responded well.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's going to be an electric environment. I mean, easily the loudest building we've played in. I think it's got a lot of the feel of Foster without the bells and whistles, in terms of just everyone being right on top of their court. The student section was phenomenal. From start to finish, they were on us. Clearly they were on me. And I just felt like that we had a lot of players respond. I thought we made big plays. I thought even Bugs being in foul trouble, she immediately checked in the game late, got an offensive rebound, put back. Sarah carried us early. I felt like Sarah really got us off to a great start, a confident start. And then Jada, and people were like, why were you so frustrated early in the game with the officiating? Well, you get to the second round in the NCAA tournament and they're calling barely hand checks, and it was, and I know letter of the law, whatever. But it was, I didn't know Jada Walker could go get 28. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not going to say that I thought that was the kind of game she would have. But what she did in 26 minutes because of foul trouble, and she got in foul trouble so early, I thought, on a hustle play. And I knew, as good as Georgia Amore was, like, we needed to get her in a million ball screens, and she was guarding Jada. And so we lost kind of that advantage when she got in foul trouble. And so I just thought, we played, we were comfortable and confident playing to the hot person. We played to Sarah early. We played to Jada late, and people made plays in between. So I just thought our execution was really, really good coming out of timeouts. We just really were dialed in and listening to one another. And I think when you play in a hostile environment, when it's all you have is your little group, you kind of have to all be really, really together.
Coach, you just brought up Jada Walker and the night she ended up having. There was a cool clip, I think it was of Tony Green, after the game, and the fans are chanting Jada, and it's just, how cool was that? And also just, how did you kind of wrap your head around, you kind of touched on it, but how did you sort of wrap your head around that, and what was the conversation like with her afterwards?
Oh, she's just she's such a phenomenal human. I mean, she's so quiet, which is, a challenge as a point guard. We have to tell her to speak up all the time. Her game is big, but her voice tends to be a little small. But I think, it was a bit of a build up and seeing kind of what we've been working on come to fruition, because going back to summer when we got her, it was like, this kid's 15-foot pull-up is like a layup for her. I mean, it really is. And you can't say that about every kid, but it's like, as she struggled to shoot the three during Big 12 play, we were just take the pull-up. It's a great shot for you, and don't settle for the three. Go get to the bounce. And it was just, she was so rhythmic with it, and she was so shifty and drew fouls and made, those last three that she made, one, obviously to make it a 4-point game, which created a 2-possession game, and then to make the two when they had cut it to one. That's as loud of a venue as I've ever been in terms of a kid stepping up and making free throws in that moment. And so it was great to see her teammates celebrate her, because, they're constantly challenging her to be louder so they know what they're supposed to be doing, since she's got the ball in her hands a lot. But they absolutely were all about celebrating her last night. And that is what it's about.
Scott, after the loss they had to Clemson, was talking about how difficult anytime it's the last game, and his team very close, especially with a couple of guys like Jacoby and Missy most likely moving on. But it was just that it was a tight team. Do I get the same? And a lot of people say things after they've lost, but it seems to be very, very real. Do you have that same type of group, it appears, right now with you?
We do have that type of group. And I also think that ebbs and flows. It's like, I always say that there's dysfunction in every family, and you have to work through it. And it's rarely is any team, is any office space a utopia all the time. So I tend to be a realist. You have to deal with things as the season goes along. I mean, you've got a lot of players that have individual goals and collective goals, and you have all these things. But I think when push comes to shove, these players our girls really care about each other, and they know they need one another. And I was really, really clear about this in the press conference last night, because, we don't have anyone talking about who's going to be a first round pick on our team. We don't have Melissa Smith. And so sometimes we talk about part of our mantra being sometimes you, sometimes me, always us. because we do have all these good pieces that at any given night, it can be your night. And we need to like respect that, roll with that, feed the beast. You have all these terms in football and whatever. But it's not because we don't have really, really talented players. We may not have a first team all conference player this year. We may not have an All-American. But I think we have players that are really, really good. And I don't want to downplay their individual talent, but I think collectively is where we're at our best. And so I think that starts, in the locker room and how they prepare and how they kind of value each other and lift each other up.
Nicki, you mentioned it's not like you'd been through a long stretch. Obviously, it was the emotions were great. Now what? Because you didn't get home. I think Shelby said you guys got home like at 3 o'clock in the morning. But you have a little bit of time, and yet you don't, because you got to turn around and travel out to Portland, play USC most likely, although Kansas is right there too. What is it about giving your players some legs and decompress if you have much time to do that?
Yeah, we'll, today we're obviously off. We did. I think it was more like 4 or 4:30 by the time we were home, but I was all about that. Let's get back and let's get a few hours in our own beds, because you only get so many before you travel again. And maybe that was selfish, but I don't think it was. Like, I just think everyone, when they're back in their comfort zone and their space. And, I think that's important for that whole concept of being able to decompress. So we'll be off today. Tomorrow we're going to be really focused on, they'll all have an individual 30-minute shooting workout with their physician coach, and we'll just watch film. That's all we'll do. We'll get a lift, and I'm sure lift will be somewhat recovery driven as well. So we can. I do think one of our strengths, when I look around at other teams, even Notre Dame's big win today against Ole Miss, teams don't have a lot of depth. Teams aren't playing a lot of players. I think it's our advantage. It is one of our key advantages, and I know sometimes benches shrink in the postseason anyway. But I do feel like, we don't have 4 players averaging 35 minutes a game. We have 1 player averaging over 30 minutes a game, and we have people hovering there. But I think that's helped kind of with fatigue. I thought Sarah had a stretch. She looked fatigued last night because I thought she was so solid for us, but her shot was short, and she was behind on a couple of defensive assignments. And like, once we gave her kind of a blow, she was kind of back to herself, and she made some really key defensive plays. And so, I think that's what we'll do. We'll balance that. We will probably leave late Wednesday, hopefully. But it's exciting. We get to play another week. I think that's the whole thing. Everyone always talks about, you watch these press conferences. I was watching Gabby Gregory at Kansas State, and she's like, it's just, it's my last game, and I don't get to go back in that locker room and get ready to prepare with my team for another practice, for another game. And it just really, really settles in really, really quickly. And so I think for all of us, it's like, it's just one more week. It's one more week. And this has been a goal of ours, and we've talked big all year long, not necessarily publicly, but, in our space, in our coaching huddles and on our team huddles, like we're talking about what our goals are and our expectations. And so we're where we want to be, so we get another week to grow and get better. And whether it's Kansas or whether it's USC, we'll be prepared.
Nicki, congratulations, Sweet 16. Good luck this week in handling it. The trip to Portland. We appreciate your time. Really was a gutty win. You too. Nicki Collen, Baylor women's basketball coach, and a gutty win against Virginia Tech. And she even admitted, Kitley was out. We mentioned that at the end of last week. They won the game, took advantage of it. And also, as she said, she felt like that was still a game they could win if Kitley had played, who was a star player for Virginia Tech.
Yeah, that was a big win for that program.